diaphragm, you want to make sure not to get it on there because it causes it to expand and then it won't fit. Then you got to buy a new one, and that sucks. Get some carb cleaner in there, and then spray it out with the air compressor. And dry it out a little bit so you don't have any leftover carb cleaner in there. Make sure your boot's clean. Or your diaphragm here. And then we're going to go ahead and place it back in. Some of them have a little alignment notch here. Make sure it goes in the right spot. Go ahead and get that aligned up. Big mistake I always do is I always forget to put the spring back in, and then I put the carburetor back in the bike and then wonder why it's not running right, and then I see the spring on the ground and I get to take it all apart again, and that sucks. So we'll go ahead and put the lid back on here. Note this little tab is going to match up right here. At least it should. No, just kidding. It's this tab right here. There's a small little one right there. Take your screws. I'll put them all back in. I'm only going to put 3 screws in because I dropped one and I don't know where it went. Again, we're going to loosely tighten one after another in a crisscross pattern, and that keeps it evenly distributed as far as the weight distribution on this thing, and it won't warp it. You don't want a hole in here where air can get in, otherwise it won't run right. Alright, so we did our 3 there, and then I'll put that other one in after the video is done here, once I find it. Look on the either side of these venturis right here, blow them out with carb cleaner and air. I'll just do it real quick. Should have a couple small ones on the other side as well. I have this air compressor. If it sounds like it's running really low, it's because it is. I have it so it doesn't turn on and drown out the noise on the video here. It's just kind of for demonstration. Alright, so we're going to start putting our jets back in. Main jet here, or the little housing that it sits in. Nothing needs to be abnormally tight. Finger tight, and then just a little bit more. This stuff's not going anywhere. Take your main jet. This is our 120. When you put it back in, just double check, make sure everything looks like it's not clogged. I'm moving through this really pretty quick here, but you got to make sure that each one of these is not clogged. You got to take a lot of extra time to make sure they're not. Attention to detail is what makes you successful here, and then you don't have to take it out 3 or 4 times before it finally starts running. So we'll do our pilot jet here, our mid-range jet. And all these things are made of brass, so you got to be really careful not to over tighten. I'll just strip them out, and that sucks. Alright, for putting the float bowl back in, or the float, excuse me, you see this thing's got a deal where it can hang on this. Doesn't matter which way it goes on, just let it hang. Take a little shaft here. So you're going to have to drop this into that hole. And then just kind of line this up and slide that in. There you go. Alright, next is our gasket and our float bowl here. Oh, float bowl I forgot to clean out here. So we'll take our paper towel, clean out any of this junk. Make sure you don't leave any pieces of paper towel. And then I'll hit it with the abrasive brush too. Take a little Q-tip and get in some of these nooks and crannies here. Dry it off. Again, we don't want to get any carb cleaner on this boot or on this gasket. It's only going to fit one way. This one's kind of old, so it's a little larger than it should be. It probably does need to be replaced, so you got to be kind of careful not to let these edges pop up. Because if it sits like this, when you put it back together, you're going to have fuel leaking out. And that's no good. Alright, so we get that thing lined up. Double check one more time that everything's in there. Looks like it is. Alright, and then you want to look around, make sure that your gasket's still seated correctly. And of course it's not right here. Alright, so we got that. And put our 4 screws in. Same way as before in a crisscross pattern. Key thing on these, you really don't want to over tighten them again. Put our pilot jet back together here. Slide your spring over your screw. You need to drop this thing in. You can either drop it in like this. It's probably going to be the best way. So you slide that whole assembly together here. And gently drop that in. Alright, the key thing on this is we're going to screw it all the way down until it seats. Alright, so that's all the way in, and then we're going to back it out to whatever the manufacturer recommends. So on this one we'll do 2 turns, so you count backwards. 1/2 turn, 1 whole turn, 1 1/2 turn, 2 turns. And that is basically how you clean a carburetor. And I'll show you all my face just so you know it was me and I didn't cheat.